That guy over there is Bob Pollock from the Indiana County Extension Office, and you can give Bob a call right now at 479-1160 or 349-WCCS and ask him your questions about lawns and gardens and plants and poinsettias and Christmas cacti and all of those things. I told you a couple weeks ago our Christmas cacti looked like they were not interested in blooming for Christmas, but now they've got the big old flowers ready to come bursting out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at it one day, and it's just
gone the next.
Green leaves, and then
it's like in the winter.
What
are those great big things that pop out, and then for the rest of the year they're an ugly green plant? The huge flowers, for goodness sakes.
Oh, magnolias.
No. Anyway, let's not talk about that.
Same kind of thing, though.
Yeah.
It's just a
green,
nondescript plant for 3 seasons of the year, and
they've got
when they flower,
a burst of flower for just a little bit, and then they're
there's a number of plants like that.
Yeah,
they have a few other uses, but nothing real spectacular.
Well, this time of the year, people, of course, are concerned about their Christmas plants and their poinsettias and Christmas cacti, but they're also thinking about the plants that they brought in, and it's now been a couple of months that they've been indoors, and you have said before you need to check on them, just make sure they're being healthy.
So this could be the weekly checkup now.
You do your weekly checkup now.
Go walk around and look at those and see how they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are some of the things people might notice about them and say, oh, I got to do something here?
Now, probably the biggest thing might be something with the leaves, either yellowing or browning, of the leaves that would kind of jump out at you that something's not right, or dropping leaves, and that's fairly common too when we have a transition period and we've moved plants from maybe an optimal conditions into conditions indoors where they're not as optimal.
Mm-hmm.
The plant will survive, but it has to get reacclimated to that. Excuse me. I don't know where that's coming from.
That little button there that says cough, you might press that one too.
The little green one that's with those little letters that you have to try to read.
Yeah, it's all lit up.
Yeah. No, there's no light on it.
Okay. All right.
But it is green. It's the right color for the season.
Unlike some people's plants, as we return to topic
right.
here.
So, dropping leaves, yellowing leaves, browning tips of leaves. So all those things would be not the best, obviously not the best conditions to have.
Yeah. All right,
so
let's take a caller here first.
Observe those and go from there.
All right. Good morning.
Morning. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question about seeding. I know you've answered a lot of questions recently on this, but I don't remember hearing this answer. I did a lot of seeding late this fall, and some of it germinated and some of it didn't. Not very much did, actually. I wonder if any of that seed that I still can see laying on the ground will winter over and germinate next year in the spring, or is it pretty much lost?
Now, seed that you can just look down and see, there's probably a good chance that may not make it through the winter. If it's protected.
How about if it's mulched?
Well, if there's a little bit of soil over top of it, and or it's mulched, then that's going to help a lot. But usually seed that's just laying where you can easily see it on top of the soil, there's going to be a greater chance that something will happen to that. It'll either rot or it'll blow away during the winter.
Birds come along and eat it.
The birds will come along and feast on it. So having that good seed-to-soil contact is pretty important. And then it also shelters it, too.
Yeah. Is it too late to throw some mulch on it?
No, not at all. The sooner the better.
Okay.
And that can be, that could be peat moss, straw, mushroom compost, any of those things that which are all things we use anyhow when we're seeding a yard. We want to have good seed-to-soil contact because that seed needs to be able to be in the soil and be able to suck up moisture so that it can germinate. And so if half of that seed or more of it is just laying there exposed, then it's going to dry out very quickly, and it's not going to get consistent enough conditions i.e. the moisture, to allow it to germinate.
Okay, I think I'll be getting some hay today.
Okay.
There you go. Well, now he has something to do with his dad.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll stay in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the
next thing.
Yeah, that's the next thing. And that's, and it's a lot easier to, when you use like mushroom compost, something like
has
that.
Some weight to it.
That has weight to it that'll hold in place.
Mm-hmm.
Straw sometimes will. And even old hay. Now, what to be careful about that is make sure it's not old weedy hay.
Weedy.
Yeah,
hay.
WEED.
I was going to say, because that would be straw if it was wheat.
So because if you get a lot of weed seeds in it, then you're
You're planting weeds.
Yes, you're planting weeds.
And weeds need no more help than they have already.
That's right.
Weeds are perfectly healthy.
They will take over in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. All right, so he was talking about outdoors and seeding.
Yeah.
And people were thinking about their gardens and everything, and maybe they haven't thought about them since they emptied them out in the fall. But maybe
they haven't even emptied them out yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that could be a case as well. But it's time for them to maybe start thinking about, okay, what do I need to do to make a healthy garden next year?
Yeah, and the more years you garden in the same place,
Mm-hmm.
that tends to be more of an issue, because if you do start to have weeds, more weed problems, you might have more insect and disease problems from cultivating the same plants in the same spot for year after year.
And plus depletion of the
and
minerals
soil,
and
soil
the vitamins
nutrients, and the organic matter content. So if we don't replace some of that, especially the organic matter.
So now, could they come now and put mushroom manure down?
You could,
I would
yeah.
assume that's about the best thing you could put on them right now.
Yeah, you could put mushroom manure. You could put other manures, compost.
Actual manure.
Yeah, actual manure. Because and with raw manure, we like to have as many months as we can between application and when we're going to grow the crop.
And that's to leach out contaminants that could be harmful?
Yes, to humans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there are disease-causing bacteria and things in that raw manure, animal manure.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about human
Yes.
feces here.
That's a whole nother issue.
We don't want to get that anywhere near our vegetable garden. But because there are municipal sources,
Yes.
that are, and Milorganite is probably the widest known example of that, which is
Milorganite.
Yeah, Milorganite's been on the market for decades, and it comes from the city of Milwaukee, and it's sewage sludge, treated sewage sludge.
Okay.
Yeah, so you look at that label and Milorganite.
Oh, that sounds like
So
something good, but that's what it is. It's human
that's
waste
what it
that's
is.
been retreated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do that, and it depends on the treatment process.
And they eat a lot of blockbush
So-
there. So, just
Look
saying.
out.
Just saying. All right, so avoid things like that.
So anyhow, but with the raw animal manures that we might typically find around here, several months between when that application is made and when we're going to. It's especially important with harvesting crops, or if you're growing root crops or any crop that's going to come in contact with the soil or potentially the manure and the organisms in there. Those are the higher risk crops, and then things that are above ground, like tomatoes and peppers and things that typically are not going to come in contact with the soil, are lower risk crops.
Mm-hmm.
So we just want to. So putting manure on in the fall and actually incorporating that in is a good thing. Or putting composted manure, that gives, depending on the process that manure goes through in that composting process, whether it gets up high enough temperatures for long enough, and that's the key. The temperature and the length of that temperature, is it long enough to kill any organisms that are in there, or at least the harmful ones that might be in there. That's what that whole composting process is all about.
All right, so there you go. That's the best option. And when you say fall, this is technically still fall, and so we're still talking about that because we haven't had the first big snowfall.
No, and the ground's not frozen yet either. So,
Yeah.
I mean, once the ground gets frozen, then that gets a little more challenging because we're just applying it to the top. And as long as things are stable, as long as you're not on a really sloped area or area where you can get soil erosion, then there's lower risk there.
Okay.
But on slopes where we can get erosion, then it's best to be able to work that in rather than apply it on top.
He is Bob Pollock from the Extension. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. Thank you.
60 WCCS.